Hello, everyone. Welcome to Q Mixer's Mix at Tails Happy Hour. We are joined here today with Jordan Silbert and Tony Abou-Ganim. My name is Daniela Jagaman. I'm here on behalf of Q Mixers and Tales of the Cocktail Foundation. And really quickly, I want to say hi to Jordan, founder of Q Mixers. How are you doing, Jordan?
Awesome. How about you?
Doing very well. And Tony, the modern mixologist. How are you doing, Tony?
I'm great, Daniela. Thanks so much for having me.
We are very, very happy to have you both here today. I am here, like I said, on behalf of Q Mixers and Tales of the Cocktail Foundation. Q Mixers is the official mixer of Tales of the Cocktail 2021, and teamed up with Tales of the Cocktail Foundation to pick 8 industry leaders to open up an intimate opportunity to meet with them either one-on-one through the Meet at Tales initiative or with these beautiful happy hours. So we welcome you all and are so thankful to have you. If you guys have any questions for Jordan or Tony that come up during the course of this happy hour, please put them into the platform. We will get to a Q&A kind of ask me anything session towards the end of this, this probably the last half hour of this happy hour. But first, I would like to take a little bit of time just for Tony and Jordan to tell us a little bit about themselves. First and foremost, have you guys met each other?
We have in the real world.
Amazing. So you guys know each other.
Yes.
This is going to be easy.
Yes.
That is really beautiful. I would like to, even though you guys know each other, start off with a little icebreaker. And the icebreaker that I've selected for you both, seeing as you both have plenty of experience in the industry, is when is the last time you did something for the first time?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in right there. And I don't know if it really pertains directly to the industry or not. It
doesn't need to pertain. It can be something very simple.
Beautiful. Well, in a roundabout way, it does, because I'm very active with No Kid Hungry, Share Our Strength. And 5 years ago, I signed up to do Chef Cycle, which is 3 days, 100 miles per day for a total of 300 miles. And at that point in my illustrious biking career, I had never ridden 100 miles in one day before. So that was the first time that I ever did something for the first time that I have since. Now, 100 miles, let's go.
Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a I got to come up with an Ironman or something.
I don't think that you're topping that one, Jordan.
No, mine was much more degenerate. I went to Montreal for the first time as an adult. Me and my wife did like kind of a 3-day up and back from New York, and it was incredible. So anybody, I would totally recommend it incredibly highly. The food was like, I live in Brooklyn and go to fancy restaurants in Brooklyn. The food was like so spectacular, and then the drinks, oh my God, particularly the wines by the glass, but everything was just like fantastic. So that was what I did recently, and again, I would highly recommend it to anybody.
Well, beautiful. I was going to ask you about the food, so I'm glad you got to
it. And I did this, like the city bike too, not 100 miles, but I did city bike after multiple drinks. How about that?
Well, thank you both for sharing both of those wonderful. And there was a commonality in there. You got the city bike in there, Jordan.
City bike, Jordan, is a lot rougher on your backside. I mean, I've ridden those things. Really? I can't imagine 10 miles on a city bike.
But I did like a mile and a half, and I did two martinis or gin tonics in my blood, so I didn't feel any pain.
Well, before we get into like a little bit more background on the both of you, I do want to let everyone at home know that Tony and Jordan both curated a cocktail for Mix Up Tales this year. We are going to get a little bit of background on those cocktails. But if you post to Instagram and story and tag Q Mixers in to the post of you watching this happy hour, you have a chance to win either Jordan or Tony's cocktails. So keep that in mind. I'll remind you before the end of the show. Jordan, can you tell us a little bit more of background of how you got to be the founder of Q Mixers?
I drank too much one night was the real answer. So I used to be a little younger, and on Tuesday night, I used to be able to have 5 or 6 gin and tonics and be pretty good on a Wednesday morning. Anyway, I lived at this beautiful house with a backyard in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, and I had a bunch of friends over for gin and tonics. And after a couple drinks, one of my friends was telling the same stupid story he always tells. So I realized for a second my teeth were sticky. I was like, that's kind of weird. And I picked up the bottle. It's a bottle of Schweppes, plastic bottle of Schweppes sitting there on the table. And I'm like, looking at it, it's like 25 grams of high fructose corn syrup and natural and artificial flavors. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I thought tonic water was some like bitter water thing. Anyway, he kept blabbing on, and one of my friend's girlfriends, now wife and mother, has 2 kids, was drinking a Sprite. And I'm like, hey, Sarah, can I look at your Sprite for a second? She gave it to me, and I looked at it, and the ingredients were the exact same. 25 grams of high fructose corn syrup, natural and artificial flavors, sodium benzoate. I'm like, that's weird. You know, I don't drink Sprite that often, and now I'm having like 26 of them tonight. You know, flash forward a little further, gin has a real way of clarifying my thinking. I can see exactly what's important in the world. All of a sudden I looked up, and it was a gorgeous summer night. We had the Christmas lights up. This bottle of Tanqueray was there glowing in the moonlight. And I looked over at the bottle of Schweppes, and I was like, what a piece of crap. You know, I obviously knew what was in the bottle, but then the label was peeling off. It was, you know, dusty, crusty. And I was like, you know what? Why can't I have a tonic water as good as the gin or my pals or this night? And a couple more drinks, I was like, I'm going to make a better tonic water. Long story short, I did, made it in my kitchen, ordered a bag of bark on the internet, started mixing things up, eventually made a prototype, posted on a foodie website, totally nerdy. Like, I'm Jordan, I live in Brooklyn. I made my own tonic water. And it's like 2006. And Jim Meehan reached out to me. At that point, he was the head bartender at Gramercy Tavern. Later, obviously, went on to start PDT. He said, I'd love to try it. And I brought it to him. He says, I love it. How do I buy it? What's your distributor? And I was like, I don't know what a distributor is. He's like, okay, let's go do some paperwork. By the time I got home, I got a call from Sasha from Milk and Honey. Rest in, you know, toast to Sasha. He wanted to try it, and brought it to him, and he looked at me and said, you know, can you deliver after close tonight? And I said, sure. So I borrowed a car, delivered 2:30 in the morning, got paid cash at the register, and we were off and running. Pretty quickly on, Simon Ford found me. He was doing an event for Plymouth Gin at the time, and at Rockefeller Center. He wanted to do ultimate gin tonics. So I was like, A, how the hell did you find me? But B, yes. And any of you guys know Simon, you have a good time when you hang out with him for a couple of hours. And, you know, 7 gin tonics later, Florence Rubicant from the New York Times, the head dining in writer, came over to our table, and I was either charming or a lot of speaking with confidence with all the gin, but she was excited. And the next morning I got a call from the fact checking department of the New York Times that we're going to be featured on the front page of the dining in section. So I want to say that was it, but that was 14 years ago. And ever since then, it's been step by step by step by step. But now Q Mixers are, Jesus Christ, we're sponsoring, we're the official mixer of Tales of the Cocktails. You know, the first time I went there, I was sneaking into parties, and whatever. Last time I went there, I was sneaking into parties. But now our stuff is available nationwide and served at, you know, thousands and thousands of the better bars and restaurants around the country who want to have their mixers be as good as their spirits or their beers or their wines.
I mean, that's quite the journey.
Yes.
It all
Fortunately, I got good drinks to get me through it all.
Exactly. Well, that is a beautiful journey. I know, Tody, you also have quite a journey.
Yeah.
Can you just give us a little background on how you got to be a modern mixologist?
Well, like Jordan, an overnight success that took 14 years, but congratulations. Fueled by passion. You know, if you're passionate about things, you know, if you have it down in here, it's amazing what you can accomplish. I grew up in a bar family. So my cousin Helen David, who opened a bar in 1937, finally put me to work behind the brass rail in 1980 at the age of 20, at a time when being a bartender was, people say, well, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I'm a bartender. And they said, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I'm having a good time being a bartender. I didn't know I needed to do something else. And, a lot of friends that came up through the 80s heeded that advice and went on to do something else. And I tried other things, but I kept getting dragged back in. I loved being behind the bar. I was never happier than when I'm behind the bar. And, that was 41 years ago. So still, I think it's a little late to change right now, but it's been an amazing journey, and came along probably at the right time with the right message, just as this revelation of classic cocktails and bartending and the art of mixology has been in the forefront the last 15 or 20 years, and met some wonderful people. And I will say that, much like the relationship that I've formed with Jordan, it is about relationships. It's about founding those relationships, nurturing those relationships. My relationship with Tales, goes back to year 2, and it was a happy accident. Dale DeGroff called and said, you really should be at Tales. It's just a few people, and it's like-minded individuals. We make drinks, we do some dinners, listen to some music, and just enjoy New Orleans and celebrate our profession. And from those humble beginnings, we all know what Tales has grown into, and it is the pinnacle event in the world today for people that make cocktails for a living. So I've been very, very proud and honored to be in this profession 41 years, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
We're
Next
really
year,
looking
that
forward to it too.
Not the next profession.
I thought you meant the next 41 years. And I was
The next 41 years. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you both giving that background. I think it's just really amazing what you both have been able to accomplish. It's really great to have you on today to share all of your trials and tribulations. One thing I do want to touch on is the cocktails that you curated, because it is a happy hour after all. So Jordan, will you talk us through your gin and tonic?
Sure. So, I don't know, gin tonic is one of the easiest drinks to make. It's also one of the easiest drinks to make bad, and one of the easiest drinks to make good. And it really comes down to a couple of things. So the first and foremost, it's using good ingredients. My theory, we have 11 flavors, and I make each one of them basically myself. And my general thought on making the flavors, but also making the drinks, the cocktails that using my flavors, is like a chef. Like, if you use good ingredients and don't overcook things, you usually can make a pretty good dinner. So for my gin and tonic, I use what I think is very good gin. I like a lot of gins, but I certainly like Simon's gin, and I'm very appreciative to how he got our start. And our tonic water, our original spectacular tonic water, which compared to other tonic waters obviously has real quinine from Peru, but also is really dry. We use a little organic agave to sweeten it, and it's kind of even drier than some of these dry tonics out of Europe right now. So that's one. Two, I chill the tonic water, and I use really good ice. So I pour the ice in, pour the booze in, stir the booze to make sure it's even colder, then top it with some tonic. Don't stir it too much. One of the things we're known for is having a lot of carbonation in our products. The glass bottles of tonic water have 4.5 gas volumes. Like, we treat carbonation like an ingredient. Granted, I started a carbonated mixer company, but nothing drives me more nuts than a flat gin and tonic. Life's tough out there, and to have a flat sugary gin and tonic, that really sucks. Get your booze chilled, make sure your mixer's chilled, top it with 5 ounces of our tonic water, spectacular tonic water, and then garnish it with a lime. I like a nice, good, healthy squeeze of it. And easy to make, but also easy to screw up. So be sure to use really good tonic water, gin, ice, and a garnish, and go nuts and enjoy yourself.
And it all started with the gin and tonic. So
Yes. Yeah.
how fitting.
Yeah. And it keeps starting with it, right?
It keeps starting with it. Tony, would you be able to chat with us about your Mediterranean mule?
Absolutely. And I just want to jump in on Jordan for a second, because
Of course.
I have the saying about the gin and tonic that it's the simplest, most difficult drink to make perfectly. And you just have to pay attention to the details like Jordan has. The one thing he didn't mention, and you noticed in the picture, was the beautiful highball glass. It is a category of drinks that have a glass created for it. So it doesn't have that large opening. And we all know how important, and Jordan touched on this, he even calls it an ingredient, is the carbonation. There's nothing worse than a flat gin and tonic or a flat highball. So the narrow opening on the highball glass helps to hold on to those beautiful bubbles and just gives you that tingle from the first sip to the last. So it's a simple drink, but when made perfectly, it's a thing of beauty. So
yeah. Thanks, Tony. And I have a lot of thoughts about the Spanish gin tonic. I assume you do as well. We run out of time. Let's get geeky about that.
Let's get geeky another time. When we're face to face, we can do it with a glass in our hands.
You guys are welcome to geek out. I hope that you know that.
Anyway, I think the highball glass is the answer, like Tony said. Like, it makes a huge difference to actually have the carbonation concentrated in a vessel as opposed to dissipated with a wide opening.
Yeah, when I learned the drink in 1980, Helen had these little 10-ounce highball glasses, and there was a real ritual to making this simple drink. But it was all about the right balance and the right amount of fizz in the final drink. And then I moved to California, and everything was served in a bucket. I was like, what's a bucket? It was like, what's like a double old-fashioned glass? And it had this real big opening. So you got the tonic off the gun, so it's out of calibration anyway. And by the time you hit that on some bad ice in that big glass, you had nothing left to fizz.
Yep.
It's a shame when you look at something that simple that can be that beautiful, but can so easily be made poorly.
Yeah.
Details. Well, my Mediterranean mule was really inspired by a couple things. I'm Lebanese, so we're from the Mediterranean. And I love those flavors. Mint was something that was always in my mom's garden. She would dry it in the winter. Citrus was always part of the cooking. Hibiscus, when Q came out with the hibiscus ginger beer, that was a real eye opener for me, because I loved hibiscus ever since I went to Julie Reiner's Flatiron Lounge in New York. And she made me a hibiscus swizzle. And that drink stuck with me still to this day, one of my favorite drinks. So I was always trying to find ways to incorporate hibiscus into my drinks. And generally it entailed making a syrup with the dried hibiscus flowers and then making that into a syrup. And now you get all that beautiful, real ginger spice. You get the chilies, at the backbone, and then you get the beautiful floral notes and that lovely color that the hibiscus brings to the drink. So I just, called on my Lebanese Mediterranean roots. Aperol to me is just a beautiful, you can't drink Aperol without closing your eyes and sitting on the Mediterranean. You're drinking a spritz or, an Aperol and soda, and you just close your eyes and you can kind of feel the ocean breeze and the lemons from Sorrento, from Amalfi, along the Mediterranean. So I tried to put all those things together, balance them, showcase the hibiscus ginger beer, and a little touch of the Mediterranean in a mug. Cheers.
Oh, cheers to that. And I did want to mention that you chose Absolute Citron for the vodkas to be included in your kit. So for anybody at home who is looking to enter the giveaway, that would be the spirit that Tony chose for his kit.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I love the blend of the 4 different citruses in Absolute Citron. And it plays beautifully with the ginger beer, the hibiscus, the fresh lemon, and then the orange and rhubarb in the Aperol. So again, it's like life. It's like finding that balance and bringing all those flavors together to give you something that's more than the sum of the parts, hopefully. Mine tastes pretty good.
I'm glad to hear it. All right. Well, I would love to get into a little bit more on of the questions that I thought of when we were talking about both of your backgrounds. I think that one thing that both of you chose to do is you found this thing that you were really passionate about, and then you executed against it. Like, how is your mental mindset to like make that plan or push yourself forward to get to what you were trying to achieve? Like, what was that process like for you? I know it's a kind of vague question, but.
Tony, you want to start or should I?
Sure, I'll go ahead and jump right in because, it was love at first sight for me, bartending. Because as a child, I would go in with my dad, and it was Shirley Temple, and there's my Uncle Charlie behind the bar in his white shirt and these beautiful pillars and the back bar and the Tiffany lights, and I was just so enamored with being in the brass rail, being in the bar. And once I started working, I worked with my cousin Tony, who really took me under his wing and taught me to be a bartender along with Helen. And like I said, at that time in the 80s, people really it wasn't like a profession to aspire to. And even Helen was somewhat hesitant to make me a bartender at first. My dad had to persuade her to put me behind the bar. And I'm listening to these things. So I went back to college. I got my degree in business. I became a stockbroker. I moved to New York City. I was doing theater. I stopped being a stockbroker. I really focused on being an actor. So I moved to New York to work on Broadway. I don't know if anybody recognizes me, but in 1993, I was the Alka-Seltzer Plus cold and flu guy.
Really?
Up here, a cold is more than just a runny nose. That was me.
Oh my gosh.
But auditions going. I mean, I was
a
on
free
it.
sample back if anybody finds the YouTube of that advertising.
It's out there.
I
But
hope that somebody puts it in the chat
Okay.
while we're
good.
discussing.
I
Double
also
mixers if you put it in the chat.
again 1993. It was we're just kind of on the tipping point of bringing back the art of mixology and bartending and the craft. And I happened to be introduced to Dale DeGroff, and I went to the Rainbow Room, and I sat at the bar, and I watched Dale work, and I watched his passion for the craft, and I watched his guests reacting to him and what he was doing and the cocktail menu, and this light bulb went off over my head. I'd been bartending at this point 13 years, but it never really sunk in as a profession until that moment. And I said it to myself, yes, precious, you are going to set out to be the best bartender that you can be. And that was it in that moment. And I'll never forget that moment. And I'm thankful to Dale to this day. And we've become great friends, as you know. And he was the gentleman who introduced me to Steve Wynn's people to get me the job at the Bellagio in 1998. That really, again, changed everything for me and really had a big focus on doing fresh, handcrafted premium cocktails in an account the size of the Bellagio Casino and Resort in Las Vegas. So, it was an interesting journey, and it was at that moment sitting at the Rainbow Room that it all changed, and changed for the best. I mean, who knows if I would have continued my acting career, but it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good.
You landed it worked out well, but being in an Alka-Seltzer commercial is a pretty big deal. I feel so anyway. Jordan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I, as part of this, I talked with, I guess, 5 or 6 people. Was it yesterday? For about 15 minutes. We had one-on-ones with various attendees who kind of wanted to talk. And first of all, it was terrific talking to all of them, and kind of really inspirational, kind of talking to people at the very beginning of their journey. You think about that, what's that movie, the Game with Michael Douglas, where it's like, oh, I'm so jealous that you get to go through that again. So one of the things that struck me with all the conversations, I think 3 or 4 of them mentioned the term imposter syndrome, which definitely heard a bunch recently, but it really kind of shook something inside of my head. It's like, wow, I didn't necessarily appreciate that as much as I should have. And what kind of helped me get through it, because I definitely felt that along the way. And I guess I was just lucky to have different experiences. So that kind of propelled me forward. So the first one was kind of during my wandering years. I lived in Sonoma County, California, about an hour north of San Francisco, kind of near Napa. And I lived with this kind of ne'er-do-well guy. I was in the guest house, and among other things, he grew his own pot, but also made his own wine. And he had a friend of a friend who's had a grandfather who owned some land. Anyway, we got to pick some basically wild grapes up in Cloverdale, some Petit Syrah. And we did it the old way, talk about Italy. We did it the old way with hand pruning shears, put them in a bucket, then you put it in a barrel, then we crush it, then you barrel it and let it sit for a year and put no yeast in, kind of nothing in it, just basically wild grape juice going and turning into wine. And he every year would give a case of that to one of the fanciest restaurants in Marin, kind of in exchange for a gift certificate for dinner. And he'd always use that gift certificate, and then he'd see his wine on the menu. It was called Buffalo Blood. It's like, what's this Buffalo Blood? And the waiter or waitress would say, well, it's beyond biodynamic, beyond organic. It's like friggin' natural wine. It's graped, picked off the side of the road, put in a barrel, let it sit for a year. And as a result, when it's good, it's really good. And when it's bad, you will know immediately, and I'm happy to replace it. So I had this kind of drunken idea for tonic water. And I was thinking, this guy did dental malpractice cases every 2 or 3 months to basically keep himself alive. And besides that, would go, jumping in swimming holes and do slingshots, trying to hit things down from trees. And so when I thought about it, I was like, wow, if that Yahoo can make world-class wine, I could probably make some pretty good tonic water. So I kind of tried it because that guy, and then I tried something and my friends liked it. And then I posted on the internet, and then Jim freaking Meehan and Sasha loved it. And so that kind of gave me validation. And then, Simon Ford pretty quickly on, and I assume we'll get into a kind of our experience at Tales, but I went to Tales really, really early. It might've been it was 2006, whether that was 2 years, 2 or 3. But at that point it was parties in hotel suites. Those were the ballers, the ones who got a hotel suite as opposed to just a regular queen size room, and they would have people over. And I just would bring a bag of my tonic water, and to have those people it was oh my God, I think I do have something here. So there was definitely people egging me along. And then there's validation that I got pretty early that just kept me going, because it can be a long, lonely journey. And I feel that validation certainly helps, as does drinking.
Well, the drinking helps with the courage
Yes.
part.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I mean, you guys both really talk about, making this leap of faith of sorts.
Yeah.
But then really having these great connections with individuals on an amazing level that helped validate those things for you.
Yeah.
So it is really wonderful that you guys have offered yourselves to the industry for not only this conversation, but the one-on-one conversations that you had this week. Tony, you said that you just happened to meet Dale DeGroff. How do you just happen to meet Dale DeGroff?
Well, like I said, I moved to New York City to pursue a theater career. And of course, I needed a bartending job because the acting wasn't paying the rent. And I met Mario Batali and was his very first bartender at his first little restaurant called Poe. And across the street, Dave Page had a place called Home. And Dave Page was friends with Dale. And through Dave and Mario, they said, you've got to meet this guy, Dale. Apparently he's doing some really fun things up at the Rainbow Room. And so I went up to the Rainbow Room, and I had a sport jacket on and a white shirt and a tie and polished shoes and some really nice blue jeans. And the maitre d' stopped me at the elevator and said, where are you going? I said, going to the bar and having a Negroni and meet Dale DeGraw. I said, not dressed like that, you're not. And I was like, what? He said, you got jeans. I said, do you know how much these jeans cost? So I went home, I put a suit on, I came back, I sat at the bar, I ordered a Negroni. I was kind of testing, because in 1993, not a lot of bartenders knew how to make a Negroni. So I was like, let me check this Dale guy out, see if he knows what a Negroni is. And sure enough, that's where I stole the burnt orange twist from Dale, as many of us did. And from there, he would come into the little 4-seat bar every once in a while that I worked at Poe. And we just, like I said, became friends. And I moved back to San Francisco in 95 and reopened the Starlight Room with Harry Denton. From there, I didn't know anything about Las Vegas or the Bellagio, and Dale had worked with George Goldhoff at the Rainbow Room, and George called Dale and said, Steve Wynn is looking for somebody to do a cocktail program, and we don't, there's no database for this in 1998. And Dale said, well, you should give this guy in San Francisco a call. And I'll never forget that call. And, that's a beautiful thing in this business. Danielle, you touched on it. Relationships and the people that you meet. And one of my one-on-ones the other day, this young lady I was meeting with said, you probably don't remember this, but one of your seminars was one of the first I ever went to. And you taught me how to muddle drinks, and you changed the way I looked at this profession. And I was like, wow. I mean, I didn't honestly remember, but you never know who you're going to meet or who you're going to inspire or have an impact on. That's why, it's always so good to be good with your time and try to, because we are in a mentor business, and you'll never know what effect you might have on somebody's life, career, profession, and something as simple as muddling a drink in a seminar.
Absolutely. I love that muddling a drink in a seminar is what got you. But it also was like the pinnacle of your career watching Dale. And it made the stage become the bar for you.
Well, I wouldn't say it was the pinnacle of my
not
career.
The pinnacle, but
I don't want to give Brother Dave too much love.
Poor choice of words. But I do also want to touch on, because you talked about the Negroni being the drink that you were kind of using to test Dale. But you also do a lot of work, excuse my sloppy transition, with Team Negroni. And we just had Negroni week last week. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that, because it's really how you continue to support the industry outside of your work behind the bar.
Well, thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, that is something very dear to me. The Helen David Relief Fund is a charity that I started in 2010 in memory of my cousin Helen David, who, as I mentioned, opened a bar in 1937 with her mother. So I'm all about strong women in this industry. And she ran that bar for nearly 70 years. She passed at the age of 91. But during her life, she's survived breast cancer twice. So to keep her memory alive, and I believe, Danielle, you know that the Lifetime Achievement Award, the Spirit Awards, is given in her memory as well, the Helen David Lifetime Achievement Awards. So to keep her memory alive and to give back, because Helen was very philanthropic. She believed that it was always better, to leave something behind than take it with you. And she was always inspired me to be philanthropic. So in her memory, we started the Helen David Relief Fund. And 5 years ago, as an avid bicycle rider, I thought, we work in a difficult industry. And, sometimes we don't take good care of ourselves, and maybe we drink a little too much and stay out late. And so by forming the Team Negroni, it inspired bartenders not only to help other bartenders, because the Helen David Relief Fund benefits all bartenders, primarily dealing with breast cancer, but all forms of cancer. And at the same time, making a commitment to yourself to take a little bit better care of your own health. You're having a rough day, you get out on the bike and you clear your head, and sunshine and fresh air, and you put 20, 30 miles in the saddle, and all's good in the world. So Team Negroni, we're getting ready to ride in October. We've got I believe, 6 hosted rides throughout the country this year. And if anyone wants to check it out, wants to join us, go to usbgcharitable-foundation.org and check out Team Negroni bicycle rides for 2021. Jordan's going to ride with me, right?
I don't know, 100 miles. I was on City Bike. I'm in on City Bike. I'll go from the Rainbow Room down to the West Village.
You set up the gin and tonics. When we get there, we'll be thirsty.
That's perfect.
Well, but I have to, just to add to that, we thankful to our supplier sponsors who promote or support us in our quest, and Jordan and Q Mixers has been a big sponsor, and really one of the ways that we formed our relationship was through that philanthropic efforts. And he mentioned Anthony Poland, who is a bicycle rider who is recovering from a bicycle injury right now, but he gets out there and pedals a lot of miles with us for the Helen David as well. So Jordan, thank you as always for your support.
It is our pleasure.
Well, I mean, that is super special. I love that Q Mixers and this very amazing ride that really supports a beautiful charity effort in Helen's name. You guys both team up on. So I appreciate you guys sharing that with us. And I appreciate you guys sharing all that you have shared with us in my kind of my questions that I had just to get us to this point in time where I would love to open it up to some of the questions that came through the platform. If you guys are ready for Ask Me Anything, I'm ready to get into it. All right. So I am going to ask a question from Doug Booms. Doug asks, he asked 2 questions, so I'll ask you the first one. What is your advice for staying fresh and not getting stuck in a creative rut?
So Jordan, you've got some new flavors coming out, so you could probably jump on this one.
Yeah, so I think, so there's a couple things that I came up in these one-on-ones. One of the things I kind of work hard at and don't do as well as I should, but certainly advise other people to do, is kind of build a good support structure outside of your work life. This industry has the ability to take your entire being, 24 hours of your time, obviously your liver and your other body parts. And when you get into one of those ruts, it's pretty hard to be creative. And so one of the things that I always say is make sure you have your foundation in order. And I actually met my wife the night before I started the business. So she's been kind of with me throughout it. I have 2 now young kids who are terrific. I have some great friends, including my best friend who I started the company with. So I have that, and that's been really important to me. And then I've really, people call it a practice, but I've really tried to exercise, read books, and have kind of a being outside of this kind of work endeavor. And so that's been really hard for me. And I tell everybody else, just, hey, make it a priority, like you make selling cases or meeting new people. So that's, I think, one thing that's really important. I think on the other hand, I think you have to expose yourself to new things. And fortunately, I live in Brooklyn, and it's easy to do that. But that's why we went up to Montreal, especially during this last year and a half when everybody was in their, working out of their bedroom or living room and not seeing new people. That makes it really hard to come up with new ideas. And, I'm now old enough and that I've kind of looked inside of my brain a lot. And I think it's really important at this stage to bring in new ideas and new concepts and new things. And, when it comes to cocktails or drinks, one of the ways I get most inspired is going out to cocktail bars. We're about to come out with a tropical ginger beer. Don't tell anybody, but it's launching hopefully in a month or 2.
Is that really beautiful box behind your head? The packaging for it?
There, I think it's there. And I got that idea at Diamond Reef. Diamond Reef it's a great bar in Brooklyn, started by the Attaboy guys. And me and my wife would do our date nights there, and I would drink 3 martinis in 25 minutes. And she really likes kind of a spicy tequila-y drinks, either with a ginger or kind of a citrus note. And so as I was coming up with like kind of variations on the ginger beer, I thought of the drinks that she would get there. And that kind of spurred my thinking. So I guess it's 2 things. One, make sure your foundation is good and you have enough ability to create headspace to come up with great ideas, and then have new things come into your head. You know, go to a new bar, hang out with a new person, go to a new town. And that's the way, at least I get inspired.
Tony, do you have anything to add to inspiration? How to create?
Yeah, inspirations, like Jordan said, it can be anywhere. It can happen. I just was inspired by a parfum the other day. I did a little video with a friend who's launching a parfum, and I broke down her parfum into a drink. And
hold on, what's a parfum? Is that a perfume?
It is and it isn't. I'm not 100%. Danielle, you might have more insight into this than I do. The parfum is something to do with how it's made, and it lasts longer. It doesn't dissipate the smell as quickly, and it's more expensive. I think that's probably the key.
I don't think that there's like synthetic scents in it.
Okay.
It's like all natural.
So it's like it's like your mixers.
Yes.
Mixers.
We are the parfum of mixers.
You are
Exactly.
Cat new tagline.
I love it. And I'm doing the drinks for my nephew's wedding next weekend, and they're having the wedding in northern Michigan, and apple cider, and it's cherry country. So I was inspired by those Michigan flavors and ingredients to work into the drinks. And I'm doing an apple cider drink with the Q ginger beer that is just with whiskey that is beautiful. So I mean, it's
the ginger beer.
Inspiration's all around us. You know, it's a restaurant. You know, it's like if you like to eat it, you might like to drink it. So you know, how do I incorporate some of these spicy notes from my Thai food into a tequila drink? So, you know, always like, but again, it all starts with a foundation based in the classics. If you don't understand the classics, you know, you're just throwing, you know, mud at the wall. You know, it's building. I think it was Mencken who once said there'll never again be a totally original drink, just variations on drinks that have come before it. And, you know, when you understand flavors and what goes with what, you know, the Q ginger beer with apple cider and whiskey, I mean, don't have to do much more than that. It's delicious. So, yeah, I'm always, you know, always on the lookout for inspiration. But the parfum was fun. That was fun.
Well, Marzi, I'm sorry, Marzi, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but they said as a perfumer, parfum is just the French term for perfume. So
thank you.
we appreciate the fact check. We haven't found Tony's YouTube clip of the Alka-Seltzer, but I do appreciate the fact check.
Oh, it's funny.
We do have a bunch of questions, Jordan, for you specifically about international Q mixers and when we can get it. Specifically in Jamaica and Australia right now.
Email me, Jordan at Q Mixers. It's just complicated. And everything I've ever done for 15 years doesn't work the way I expect it to work. And it breaks and I need to fix it. And I've just always had trouble internationally that if something breaks, I can't fix it. You know, early on, we used to sell a container to Spain a month. And then we sold someplace and all of a sudden they gray marketed it back to Spain. And look, I made this thing in my kitchen. Like I had no idea like what the gray market was. And I needed to go to Spain for 6 weeks and I just like couldn't do that. So the answer is we need somebody locally who knows what they're doing. And someone knows what they're doing locally and they're a good partner, we'd be happy to work with them. But it's just not, we just feel like we've focusing most on the US, and that's where the biggest opportunity lies, at least with my time and energy. Because I think one of the things I've realized as I've grown up is that you can do anything, you just can't do everything. And what can you do? And also what can you do? And if you do something, what can't you do? So the answer is, if someone in Jamaica or Australia knows what they're doing and can help us, tell them to reach out to me, but it just has not been our focus for the last 15 years.
You guys watching, if you live outside of the US, you can be the ones who bring Q mixers to the stores or the bars near you.
Yes.
Please. I know that is something that a lot of people have asked, even in the applications for the one-on-one. So looking forward to Q mixers being available everywhere. I do have another question from Khadija Powlett, and Khadija and I'm sorry if your name is Khadija, I'm apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but what type of ice do you use? Does it depend on the glass? Does it depend on the cocktail? If you were ice, what ice would you be?
That is a Tony question.
I added all of those.
I have a lot of opinions, but Tony is literally the expert. Maybe
I would love your opinions, because you guys mostly use like the pebbly ice, don't you, in your photography?
Sometimes when it looks pretty, but no.
Well, it really depends on the drink that you're making, and different grades of ice for different styles of drink. If I'm drinking a beautiful whiskey over a 2x2 cube, probably not the same ice I'm going to use for my highball. When I was in Japan, and really we talk about the ritual behind the highball, and where they'll actually hand cut ice, but those long Collins sticks, the one clear, hard, dry cube of ice that fills up that beautiful highball glass, and just disappears in the glass. And as Jordan was talking about, make sure your Q mixers are ice cold. Ice keeps a cold drink cold. So generally, and as the ritual goes, you have this one beautiful piece of ice, this stick of ice, and then I chill my gin, and then I add the ice cold, the Q Spectacular Tonic. And I have the saying, save the spoon and spare the bubble. Maybe one stir just to get everything acquainted, beautiful garnish, and then just let the bubbles are so carbonated in Q that they'll actually help blend and mix the drink itself. So you don't need to do much more than that. But if you don't have those beautiful sticks, the inch by inch cubes, and I use a silicone tray at home. I use reverse osmosis water, so it's not crystal clear, but it produces large, hard, dry cubes. And a little tip at home, I buy the molds that have a cover. And for some reason, I don't know if that tricks like Mother Nature a little bit, it does freeze fairly almost clear with the reverse osmosis water. So hard, dry, cold ice. You mentioned the pebble ice, the Sonic ice, which I refer to it as, the Scotsman.
That's the proper term for it, probably.
Pebble ice, yes, it is pebble ice. So if I like to use that in my mules. If I'm making a mule, I like to use it in my juleps. I like to use it in a mojito or a swizzle, but not in a highball, because where you want that interaction with the booze and the glass and bring the drink together in a swizzle or a mojito, you don't want that in a highball, because you're going to lose the carbonation quicker and add a little additional dilution. So style of drink depends on the grade of ice. Just make sure it's good ice.
I guess I would add two things to that. The first, I guess, is when you're working, when you're at a bar, a restaurant with the bar program. I think that something to think through is like why people are at your place and what are they looking for, particularly with a highball when they ask for it. And what they're looking for is an experience that they could not or would not have at their own house. So how do you delight them? And obviously our mixers help. But what I claim is that this is a phenomenal time to be a drinker. Like I'm haven't been drinking as long as Tony, but I've been drinking for a while now. And it is awesome. like, first of all, this big guys make gin. Tanqueray gin is a great gin. So that start with those guys. And then there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who are passionate about making whatever spirit they're going to make. They figure out the shape of the still, how many times to fire it through, what are the nutrigrain, what are the grains going to the nutrigrain spirit, if it's gin or vodka or whatever, what botanicals you add, how do you age it? So everybody's agonized over it. And to present that to a guest who comes into your establishment, to be so thoughtful of not only the spirit, but also the mixer and the ice and the garnish, you nail all, and the glass, you nail all of those things, and the customer is going to be like, wow, I don't do that for myself at home, and I don't get that at the Irish bar on the corner. And therefore, I feel a little better about myself. I leave delighted. I'm going to come back. So it's great as an establishment. And then I would say at home, I think one of the things I hope people are getting today is you can take you can take what you do seriously, but don't necessarily take yourself that seriously. It's one of the things I adore about Tony is that he does things literally at the top of the industry, but he also doesn't take himself that seriously. And at the end of the day, we're drinking. We're not curing cancer here. So use a good ice, but you know what? Enjoy your drink. I think the most important thing is to have it with somebody that you really want to spend time with. I think that's the real thing, especially after everything we've gone through this last year and a half. To have a really nice drink with a really good person, geez Louise, like that's the point here.
Yeah. I'm going to do one final shameless plug for these cocktail kits because they include 2 glasses and an ice tray, also a jigger. Also a great jigger. So be sure to post to Instagram for those cocktail kits from either Tony or from Jordan. All right, so I have a couple more questions for you guys. We probably only have time for one more. And I'm trying to pick one from the random. All right. Tony, Adam Bell is asking, how is the bar scene in Vegas right now? Adam's in LA and he said that they just mandated vaccination cards and wants to know about the difference.
Yeah, Las Vegas is doing pretty well. We're getting some convention business back, which especially where our restaurant, Libertine Social, is so important in Mandalay Bay. We're so dependent on conventions, so that has been great to see. We do have a mask mandate still in place in Las Vegas indoors, so all employees are wearing masks. Everyone coming in is wearing a mask. Obviously, when you're sitting down eating and drinking, that's not required. But we have some. I work also. I do the drinks at T-Mobile Arena, and I do the drinks for the Raiders at Allegiant. And Allegiant has required vaccine proof of vaccine for the Raiders games. My understanding is that isn't the case at T-Mobile, and also in pretty much all the casinos, there is no vaccine mandate to show proof of vaccination or a negative test at this point. We're hopeful, optimistic that things are heading in the right direction, and we'll be back to whatever the new normal is soon. But everyone is, still being cautious and safe and practicing, like I said, the new practices. But as far as vaccine requirements, I'm not seeing it as much even off the strip in restaurants. I haven't yet been asked to prove my vaccination yet, but I have heard that and I think Jordan in New York, it's pretty common, right?
Yeah, it's like, can I see your ID and your vaccination card? Brooklyn is bumping right now. All the outdoor dining is amazing. And yeah, Brooklyn's going great in New York City. Midtown is not back yet. It's more the residential neighborhoods that are doing really well, and the restaurants that do good stuff. I kind of think about it like 2008. Back in 2008, I was delivering myself to places. So if somebody went out of business, I didn't get paid. And I don't know, 80 bars and restaurants or something in New York City that I was delivering to, and not one of them went out of business because they were literally Gramercy Tavern, Blue Hill Tone Barn, Milk and Honey, Little Branch, the places that actually do something special. I feel like those are the ones that are doing in Manhattan are doing well. And whatever, you can make judgments either way, but the places that provide this experience for someone that they wouldn't have at their own house are the ones that are still prospering, is what I see. And it's the stupid $18 Bombay Sapphire and Soda Gun Tonic, Gin Tonic places. Those are the places that are not doing as well.
I do have one question that kind of pertains to your new flavors. Shirley was asking about them. You just spoke to one flavor. When can we expect it?
So I believe it's coming out in Kroger nationally, like in October, like next month. And then we're rolling out elsewhere as well, and should be on Amazon within a month or two. But if someone emails me, I'll send you some samples. That's what you get for showing up. Jordan at Q Mixers.
That's a very beautiful offer.
Yeah. I don't know. If we were in New Orleans, like I would clearly have cases and say, hey, if you want a drink, have a drink. Like this is the new world, right? Like how do you kind of try to connect and try to be, how do you try to recreate it virtually? And I think if someone could have a drink and think of us for 1 second, like, oh my God, that would give me so much pleasure.
Well, I have to just jump on that real quick because through all of this, Jordan has been doing these virtual highball happy hours, and he's been kind enough to include me. And we send out kits, and people tune in, and they have a happy hour in their office. They're not together, but they're together virtually with us, and they've been really, really successful and really well received, and an opportunity for people to come together to share a drink, be it virtually. And I've met a lot of new people that I never would have met before. So those are a lot of fun. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. And like, I guess, yes, let's try to enjoy this, but geez Louise, let's try to get together in New Orleans next summer.
Oh, from your lips to God's ears on that one, my friend.
Exactly. Well, I can certainly cheers to that. I'm at home with my, well, not at home, I'm at the Q or the Tails offices here in New Orleans, drinking on my Q Mixers ginger beer. I just want to let you know, I'm so thankful to the both of you. Jordan for bringing us all together, being the official mixer of Tales of the Cocktail this year. Tony Abou-Ganim for just being who you are and gracing us with your beautiful mind and presence. Jordan, you also have a beautiful mind. I don't want you to feel left out.
You get a beautiful face. That's
but thank you so much for being a part of Meet at Tales this year. I really hope that we can continue this and do it in person in 2022. And I hope that all of you at home enjoyed this conversation. And I cheers to you.
Cheers. Both. Yes. Cheers to you all.
Happiness. Cheers.
Yes. And to next year in New Orleans.
Oh, so good.